First off, I wanted to give a shout out and thank you very much to one of our fans, Alan Gerding from Tuesday Night Games, and what he had to say about our podcast is this. It is obvious that Game Relief has a sincere passion for gaming and provides an abundant amount of content with incredible consistency. Thank you, Alan, and his quote shows up on our Kickstarter page, which is live currently. We're almost to 200% of our funded goal, and you can go check that out. We'll leave all the links in the show notes. Help us get to these stretch goals. We've obviously funded, but now we're trying to go for better mobile equipment. It's only, $50, a little bit over $50 from being unlocked. And then the one I'm excited about is the yoga instruction. This was a fan-created stretch goal. The fan may have taken the term stretch goal literally, but Getting Geeky with Game Relief, myself, I'll go ahead and learn yoga, and then I'll give you, who back this Kickstarter, an exclusive board gaming with yoga episode. So I hope that's going to be quite an experience. Come on over and help us reach that stretch goal so you can find out more about board gaming with yoga, as well as I can. But anyways, in this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I dive into my archives of episodes created back almost 7 months ago, in the end of June 2018, when I sat down with Mark, who is the Chubby Meeple, and we talk a little bit about the life of a YouTuber. So if you want to go ahead and hang on through Kickstarter Corner, we'll go ahead and dive into the meat of that interview. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by LunaTix, Star Trackers, Solar System, Lunar Lander. It's an educational and strategic board game that combines real astronomy and historical space navigation. Plus, there's a real star map and also spaceship miniatures and space shuttle miniatures. It's definitely worth checking out. You want to find out a little bit more about it, you can go ahead and do that in their latest update entitled Game Relief Interview, where I sit down with Vincent to talk all about it. But definitely check out LunaTix Star Trackers. That'll be on Kickstarter through Monday, the 18th of February. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by Dark Naga, The Haunting of Hastur, Hardback 5e and OSR, Hardback Color Omnibus Edition of The Haunting of Hastur modules, Dark Naga 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with VTT maps and extras. They reached their funding goal recently, and there's still 15 more days to go ahead and get in on the fun of this, as this project goes through Sunday, the 17th of February. So definitely check out Dark Naga, Haunting of Hastur, Hardback 5e, and OSR.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, we're going to go way back to find out about a YouTuber we spoke with quite a ways ago, almost 6 months ago. So hang on until after this short Kickstarter Corner to find out what's going on with the Chubby Meeple.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
Guess who's on Kickstarter? That's right, yours truly, Game Relief, myself. I'm on Kickstarter. Getting Geeky with Game Relief podcast, season number 3. Can you believe we've come this far? 300 plus episodes made for geeks like you. With your help, we'd like to provide greater content and expand what we already do. You should definitely check out the video that was created by Glendon, the creator of Zombs the card game, and Due to the massive support we've got in the first 24 hours, 189% funded, can you believe that? We put the stretch goals on the top of the page, but we talked a little bit about that, but you can go find that out. And if for some reason you're new to Kickstarter, not to let that fear you, for nothing will be charged to your card or anything like that until the project ends on the 1st of April. So definitely come on over and help us get to 200% funded. We did the first 100% in 12 hours. Let's go break that second 100%. And at the third one, you know what we're looking to do? We're looking to get some video equipment so we can go ahead and branch out a little bit. But anyways, some other things that are coming to Kickstarter in the near future is this one. From her first memories, she had known she was an extraordinary child, always questioning everything, believing in herself, and quick to act when the situation required it. She knew that she would grow up to be someone of importance, someone others would look up to and aspire to become. Most people would consider these good traits for anyone to have, but in the backwater village she grew up in, the elders saw them as worrying signs. No man would want to marry a woman that was better than him at everything, and thus she remained unbetrothed. So, instead of spending her days learning to knit or cook or any of the other feminine pursuits of her village, she trained with the spear and the bow. Weaponry came to her naturally, and it wasn't long enough before she surpassed even the village militia as a warrior. Despite all her skills, she was viewed with contempt and constantly ridiculed and shunned, since no one wished her to wed. The laws passed from the chieftain to chieftain stated that she should wed the god of life to make up for the fact that she would bear no children. The elders met, and within an hour it was decided. She would be sent to the wise woman, a sect of nuns dedicated to the god of life. This was the first time that she felt anger toward the gods. Why should a being not of this world dictate how she would live? She didn't really have a choice. Her parents would hear none of it, since both were God-fearing people. The elders would not listen to her either. An unwedded woman and a warrior, one that. They considered the idea blasphemous to the core. So, on the eve of her trip to the monastery, she stole her father's spear, the spear that would have been given to her on her 16th birthday if she was born a man, and set off for parts unknown. She left behind a letter explaining that though she loved her parents, she could not bear to live with them. No one at that time could imagine how her decision would impact not only her village, not only the world of humans, but even the heavens themselves. Does that sound familiar to you guys? It doesn't to me neither. But this is the story of Theosis, Godslayer. It's a new expansion coming to Theosis. It's going to be a very mini expansion. And you know what? If you want to get an exclusive interview, find out first about this, make sure you subscribe to my email list over at GamerLeafGo.com. And by doing so, you can also go ahead and win a giveaway of Ethereum that I've teamed up with the Giveaway Geek, Logan Chops Reviews, and Helena Plays Board Games. That's one of the things that will get you extra entries. So do that, and you can find that giveaway at our website, GamerLeafGo.com, under the current giveaways. That's right, giveaways. There's several under there, so go check it out. And definitely check out Theosis, Godslayer, that will be launching to Kickstarter for a very short time, come the 12th of February. It will only be on there for a week, and it's a very small goal, small buy-in to get this small expansion. So you don't want to miss out on Theosis Godslayer coming to Kickstarter on the 12th of February. This one's already on Kickstarter. It's Head Chef, the tabletop card game of food, fame, and fun. In this tabletop card game of 1 to 4 hungry players, you will cook food, earn fame, and become the head chef. I'm trying to convince Peter to come on the show to talk all about it. He's so very close to his goal, less than $2,000. Let's go ahead and help make Head Chef a reality. We got to do that before Friday, the 22nd of February, so go back. Head Chef, the tabletop card game of food, fame, and fun. And if you know Peter, go ahead and tell him you want to hear all about it on Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf. Last but not least, before we dive into that interview I talked about from our past, they've got Lex Draconis, Be the Dragon. What would you sacrifice for power? Be the Dragon and roar in this tabletop RPG core book for the modern RPG universe. Wow, an RPG in which you get to be the dragon? This sounds like something my family could devour. Well, your family might be able to too, but you better hurry and jump on it, as there's only 9 days to go. This project will be on Kickstarter through Monday, the 11th of February, so definitely check out Lex Draconis, Be the Dragon. Now we join Gamer Leaf and the Chubby Meeple in their interview that's already in progress.
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
So you've heard of YouTube creators and YouTube content creators. I know last week we had on Through Gamer Goggles, who currently has a Kickstarter on. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on Mark, who is the Chubby Meeple, who has a YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us tonight, Mark. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And this isn't your first time on Getting Geeky with Gamer Life, so thanks for rejoining us, I guess, as a second time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be back and chatting with you again. Had a great time the first time, so this should be no different.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Gamer Life. So let's go. Yeah, recently I've seen quite a few more videos coming back with your name on them with the Chubby Meeple. What exactly? Well, let's rewind a little bit. I know we probably did that beforehand when we had the last interview or whatnot, but perhaps somebody new to Getting Geeky with Gamer Life and didn't go back and listen to that episode yet or whatnot. So let's rewind a little bit for them. We don't have to go back too far, of course, unless you were born into the tabletop gaming world. But how did you get started into playing tabletop board games, Mark?
Yeah, I got in. I grew up playing, your typical, Clue and Monopoly and Scrabble and a bunch of different versions of Yahtzee as a kid with family. And then in high school, of course, got into Magic the Gathering, back when it came out, 93, 94, we played. Back then it was pretty casual. It wasn't a terribly competitive market like it is these days. But played some casual Magic the Gathering all throughout high school, sold off all the cards in college and kind of went into adult life. And then about, I guess it's been about 4 years ago now. Had a friend that I was working with at the time, said they were having a board game night, invited me out, and I sat down and, we sat down and played some of the modern board games. And I'd played some of the older stuff. I remember playing Hero Quest with my brothers when we were kids, and we had Battle Masters, which, at the time we didn't have a table big enough to play it on, so we played it on the kitchen floor, at least until it was time for Mom to make dinner, and then we had to move. But, generally it was, when I got invited to this game night, about 4 years ago or so, went and hung out over there, and you have when people talk about their introduction into gaming, you hear, fairly common answers, things like Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne. My gateway into modern board gaming was actually Spectre Ops, which is kind of like being thrown in the deep end of the pool if you haven't swam in a while. So I got thrown in. We played Spectre Ops.
Oh, well, that's a hidden movement game, isn't it?
Yeah, hidden movement game, which was something that was new to me conceptually. So that was a really interesting introduction and, kind of reintroduction into the world, if you will. And then we also played Formula D that night, which was, that was really cool, kind of rolling the different dice and, gearing up your car so you can roll more dice to move faster and then having to gear down to hit the turns so you don't damage your car. And then we played a round of Zombicide, kind of the cooperative side of things as well. So it was a little bit of a mix of things, but I kind of caught the bug at that point. And I've been gaming ever since. I've got a collection now at the house that's close closing in, if not past 300 titles at this point, just from stuff that I've picked up, Kickstarters that I've backed, and then of course publishers, and whether they're Kickstarters or also published games, sending me review copies and prototypes to do for my channel.
And have you played all 300 of them?
No, I've got quite a large shelf of shame. I mean, I had a couple Kickstarters that showed up this week that are still, just because of the way the week's been schedule wise for me, they're still in the boxes that they were shipped in, still sealed with tape. I know what's in them. I know what the boxes contain because I got the notifications and whatnot, but they're still in the shipping boxes. I haven't cut open the tape to pull the games themselves out. So, and that's pretty standard. I get a Kickstarter that shows up at, unless it was something that I was terribly, super excited about and cracked into it as soon as it came in. Most of the time a Kickstarter shows up and it's a couple of days before I even open the shipping box because I've got other things going on and videos that are being shot and those types of things.
And these are ones that you backed and are being delivered, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. I'm at this point I think I'm at about 270 odd Kickstarters that I've backed over the course of the last 3 years or so, 2.5, 3 years. So I'd say
Oh, well, that's pretty good. So is there anything you're excited to play that you've recently gotten?
Yeah, I just earlier this week, one of the games that popped up this week that is still in the shipping box is the Stonebound Saga. It was one that I had my eyes on. The art caught my attention. I just really like the concept of being able to dive in and, it's kind of that card-driven, almost like a Summoner Wars, moving cards around a map. But there's more to it than that. There's a little bit more, a little bit of character progression that goes through. I'm really excited to get that out and try that. And then I actually had my Kickstarter copy of Vampire Hunters, which showed up quite a while ago. I haven't even cracked it open. It's out of its shipping box, but it's still in shrink because it's just every time I get to a point where I need to do that, something pops up where I've got to do a video, a review video for, I do some review videos for the Dice Tower and submit to them, and so I'm doing review videos of published games, and then the Kickstarter stuff goes to my own channel, and so it seems like there's always something popping up that's keeping me from cracking open some of these games that are still in shrink. And I'm also still looking forward. I still haven't even cracked open my copy of Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea yet, which just sits on the shelf and taunts me because I want to get that out. I've been a big Gamelin Games Scott Alms fan for a while. And so that'll probably be one that I push to the forefront as soon as I get a chance, hopefully over the 4th of July holiday.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's always good for a holiday, so that's awesome. So, out of the games you've played or whatnot, do you have a favorite game, or what's like your favorite game currently?
Currently, I mean, as far as overall favorites, I really still enjoy Terraforming Mars and Scythe a lot. Those are two games that I will always play if they come out. I played Terraforming Mars just a couple weeks ago with a couple folks that were here local. Look, they needed a third player, and I plopped down at the table and played with them. But I've really been enjoying, since I got back from Origins, I've played a lot of, there's a new little 2-player game that came out from Keymaster Games called Caper. And it's a 2-player card drafting where you are drafting a team of thieves to rob various locations in a famous city across the world. So you've got London and Rome and Paris, and you pick one of those cities, and then you throw 3 random locations out, and I think each location has 10 or 12, and you only use 3 of them in any game, and they all score differently, but the cards that you're drafting are a team of thieves that you're using to then rob these places. And you then, after you draft your thieves, you then draft the various pieces of gear that you're equipping your thieves with, and you're trying to basically commit the most capers at each location so that you can score the location at the end of the game. And it's a very quick game that plays in probably 20 or 30 minutes, but I've been playing a lot of that with my 12-year-old daughter, who absolutely loves it. She's beaten me quite a lot at it, but we play that quite a bit because it's a fast little game. It's easy to learn. The art and color and graphic design is just stunning on the table. But I think that right now that's probably the game that I'm playing more than anything else at this point. Not counting some of the small games that are out there that are quick to play, like the Mind and Skull. We still play a lot of those, but from an overall gamer game standpoint, not necessarily a party game, I would say Caper's probably hitting the table fairly frequently. I mean, we've played probably 11 or 12 games of that over the last week. since I here this over this
Oh,
past
wow.
week. So it's a great game. I would highly recommend folks checking it out. I picked it up at Origins. It's the first game that Keymaster's done, I believe, that they're taking straight to retail. They didn't run a Kickstarter for. So this is the same publisher that published Campy Creatures last year. They did Control, and they just did a Kickstarter that they'll be fulfilling here soon for Space Park. But Caper was one that they took it straight to retail. I asked the guy at Origins, I'm like, how did I miss this Kickstarter? And he's like, well, you didn't miss it. We didn't do Kickstarter. So it was a nice little surprise find at Origins, and like I said, one that's hitting the table all the time now that I'm back from Columbus.
Awesome. So is it a deck builder, or what kind of mechanics does it use?
It's straight card drafting. So at the beginning of the game, you deal, I think it's 4 cards to each player. You deal 4 thieves to each player, and essentially you're going to look at your thief cards and you're going to draft one of those. You're going to take that card out of your hand. You're going to draft it to one of the 3 locations in the middle of the table, and you'll set it down, and you alternate the drafting so that you can react, because some of the thieves and some of the gear cards that you have special abilities that let you flip your opponent's cards face down, rendering them useless. So in the first round, if I'm drafting a thief first, I play my thief down, and then if I'm playing my daughter, for example, she would then pick one of her thief cards that she has and play it to a location, to her side of one of the locations, and then we swap hands. And now we've each got 3 cards. I draft a thief, she drafts a thief, and we do that until I have 2 cards left, and at that point I draft one and I discard the other, and she does the same thing. And then you deal 6 gear cards to each player, and since I picked the thief first, she gets to pick her gear first. And you do the same thing. I draft a gear, I assign it to one of the thieves that I just drafted and just assigned to a location. I play that down, and you're looking for combos of cards, because some of the thieves will score you what they call capers, which are important to scoring the locations. Some of the thieves will give you capers for having different combinations of colors of cards. Some of them will, some of the gear that you play down will give you capers for every yellow card that you play, for example. And those capers are important because at the end of the game, you're going to play 3 rounds. So you're going to draft thieves, you're going to draft gear from 6 cards, and then in the next thief drafting round, you only deal 3 cards to each player. Then you do 6 gear cards again, and then the last thief drafting round, you get dealt 2 cards. So I'm drafting one and discarding one immediately, and then you do a final round of drafting from gear cards again, 6 cards apiece. And you're going to draft those. You're playing them out. You've got a limit of 3 gear per thief that you can play, so you have to really kind of pick and choose what cards you're going down. You really have to watch what your opponent's played, because sometimes you get points and or capers for having your opponent gets points for you having certain colors on your side. You can play cards that make certain colors cost more for your opponent to play. So it's literally just a card drafting game. And then once you go through those 3 rounds of drafting thieves and gear, you look through all the points and combo everything up. There's a little score pad that walks you through everything fairly easily, so that you're scoring everything one at a time and making sure you're getting all the points for your thieves and all the points for your gear and points for locations. And there's a little bit of set collection, because some of the green cards that you have different icons on them for their different pieces of things. So one of them, maybe you're stealing jewelry, and maybe you're stealing an artifact, and maybe you're stealing a painting. And if you have a set of all 3, it's worth so many points at the end. So there's a little bit of set collection to it, but very fun game. I said it plays in less than a half an hour, and you can shuffle the cards up and do it again. We'll generally, if we decide to play it again, we'll generally switch up the locations, and maybe we'll be robbing Rome in the first game, and then we'll decide we're going to jump over to London and rob London. And they've got, each of the cities has a typical landmarks you would expect, like the Colosseum and Big Ben and London Bridge and Eiffel Tower and those kinds of things. But it's a great little game. I highly recommend checking it out if you've not heard of it or not seen it. It's one that we're having an absolute blast playing.
Yeah, it sounds pretty fun. Yeah, and it sounds competitive. Me and my wife like to play competitive games.
Oh yeah, it very, very much is competitive. It has, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a take that game, but there are take that elements, because I can draft a thief and play it on my side, of a location, and now, maybe you had a thief at that location that was giving you points for every green card that you played, and now I've played a thief that all of your green cards now cost you 1 extra coin to play down, and coins are limited. There are literally only 10 coins in the game, and they're finite. So if I have 5 coins and my opponent has 5 coins, and I play a card that lets me take coins, there are no coins left in the box. I don't get to take anything. Now, if I play cards to take coins and I have less coins than my opponent, I actually steal those coins from my opponent, as long as I had less when I played that card. So there's a little bit of kind of tug of war of keeping those coins, and those coins are important, because some of the cards cost 2 and 3 coins. When you're only ever going to have 5 or 6 usually, and once you spend them, and they're gone. You have to do something to get coins back so you can play more cards. It's a really interesting balance of, I really like the power on this card, but it's going going to cost me all 3 of my coins that I have, and then I know coming back to me is a card that cost a coin that I really want. So you really have to kind of keep in mind of what's over there, and it's your typical drafting, and I really want this card, but I really want these 3 cards as well, and I can only take one of them. So a lot of interesting decisions, and it's a small box game, easy to travel with. It's literally a deck of cards and some cardboard, punch out coins and punch board coins.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. We'll have to check it out. Yeah, we like games like that. One of my favorite games is Seasons, and they have the drafting element in it, so that's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think card drafting is probably my favorite board game mechanic. I love card drafting or dice drafting. That dice drafting starting to become a thing, and I really enjoy that. And then I've always loved multi-use cards as well. And this game doesn't necessarily have multi-use cards in it, but I've always enjoyed card drafting. Even back from when I played Seven Wonders for the first time. That card drafting mechanism of, okay, I really want these cards, and I'm going to have to choose only one of them, and then I'm passing all of these great cards to my opponent. And it's just a really cool balancing act that you have to play.
Yeah, and the multi-use cards. Speaking of that, I forgot the name of the. I feel ashamed. I forgot the name of the game. I know I backed it and I'm waiting for it, but Colossal has a game coming out, a Western game with that in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, Western Legends has some multi-use cards. There's also the Kickstarter that wrapped up toward the end of May, Omen, Reign of War, and all the different pieces of Omen had some multi-use cards in it as well, because I could play a card to a city for its battle value, but some of those cards could also just be discarded into the discard pile and use other abilities printed on the card. So there's different ways to use that. And then some of those cards I could literally just discard it, rather than even use it for its ability, I could just discard it into my turn and take coins. So for that card. So there's even a little bit of multi-use cards in Omen as well. And I've always loved the multi-use card thing, where you're trying to determine the not only especially when you combine multi-use cards with drafting, it blows my mind, because not only are you deciding, okay, this is the card that I want to take, but once I've drafted and I've passed the other cards to my opponent, now am I keeping this card for resources? Am I keeping it for an ability? Am I going to flip it and turn it upside down because it's going to score me points at the end of the game? So there's all kinds of interesting, when you have choices on top of choices on top of choices, and that's just one card I've played, and they're going to come back around, and I got to do that all over again. I really love that.
Awesome. Yeah. So we talked about some mechanics and some fun games from the sounds of it. And then you said you got into the whole what tabletop is today about 4 years ago. And then you decided to get into the content creation. What can you tell us about the Chubby Meeple and how it came to life?
Yeah, absolutely. The Chubby Meeple came to life back. It was Gen Con of 2016. So only a couple years ago. I went to Gen Con. I was there, just a typical person there as a gamer. Had my scheduled ticketed events, and I actually, one of the ticketed events I went to, I had ticketed or had signed up to play Between Two Cities from Stonemaier Games. Probably still one of my favorite Stonemaier games. It doesn't see a lot of play at home because it has that minimum 3-player count, which is tough for me to find at the house unless I'm, I go out my gaming group. But usually when that happens, we're playing heavier stuff. But anyway, I was playing Between Two Cities, and I sat down and I met at playing that game. 2 of the folks that were playing were Nick and Carla Kopp of Weird Giraffe Games, who they just wrapped up a Kickstarter for Fire in the Library, which I believe is their 3rd Kickstarter. But at that time, they had their first little game there that was still in prototype form. They were going to be launching their Kickstarter in that following month in September of 2016. And we struck up conversation. They were telling me they were game designers and all this. And at that point, I was kicking around the idea of doing a review blog. I wasn't even looking at video content at that point. I was kicking around the idea of starting this blog and typing up, Kickstarter previews and maybe board game reviews, and just doing some photography and throwing some pictures in. And they said, well, we've got this cool little prototype. We'd love it if you'd sit down and play this weekend to give us some feedback. And I certainly was on board with that. So I met them the next day. We sat down, we played, enjoyed the game. It was a little card game called Super Hack Override, probably 25 or 30 cards, if that. And it was designed so that you didn't have to have a table. You could play it standing in line as well. We sat down and played that. I really enjoyed it. And then they handed me a prototype. A still in shrink prototype, and said, here, in case you decide to do your blog, take this prototype with you. You can do a write up, and we'll use it on the Kickstarter and all that. And so that kind of made me go, okay, well, yeah, I should probably do this blog thing now, because they just literally handed me a free game. I should go ahead and do this blog thing. Otherwise, they gave me this for nothing. So wrote up the blog, and the the Kickstarter for Super Hack Override funded and did really well for them. They followed that up with Stellar Leap, which is a game that is currently fulfilling on Kickstarter, getting ready to ship. I actually picked up my Kickstarter copy of Stellar Leap at Origins, met up with Carla and Nick there. And they just wrapped a Kickstarter for Fire in the Library, designed by Tony Miller, that actually has artwork by Beth Sobel. So I met them 2 years ago. I kicked off the Chubby Meeple blog, just doing a straight blog, like, typical WordPress blog. And then here they were this past Origins, 2-3 weeks ago. They, had a booth at a big show for the first time they'd been at a booth. So it was really cool to see them, in the 2 years come as far as they have. So I had my blog. And in the meantime of doing my blog,
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And so how did it go from a blog to a YouTube channel, Mark?
Yep, absolutely. I was doing the blog. I kept doing that toward the end of 2016. I was doing Kickstarter write-ups with publishers and did a couple of review games of published games to kind of get my foot into reviewing actual published titles for, some publishers that were out there. And then I also had an Instagram that I had set up so I could post board game photos. And about October of 2016, I got Jeremiah Acevedo, a lot of people may know him as the Board Game Renegade, reached out to me through Instagram and said that he and some other content creators were doing a YouTube channel called the Instagamers Network, and they were short on contributors because holidays were approaching. People were having to back out of videos for the holidays, and they were looking to add some more contributors. And it literally was every 2 weeks, they had a theme for the video. Every 2 weeks, people would put a video talking about a game that fit that theme. It was generally like a 5-minute clip, and then someone from the network would edit those clips all together with an intro and an outro and create this 30-35 minute video. And so I told him, I'm like, well, I don't do video content. I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. And I kind of caught the bug from there, doing video content. So I was just literally started off every 2 weeks. I was submitting a video to them. And then that following January of 2017, I actually just through some different connections that I'd made online, actually ended up in touch with Tom Vassell over at the Dice Tower. And he was looking for video contributors for the Dice Tower YouTube channel as well, and I sent him some sample videos that I had done, and he gave me some pointers on ways I could improve, like improving sound quality and such. And I took those to heart, recorded some new videos, sent those to him, and in January that year was accepted as a Dice Tower contributor on YouTube. And then from there, I started my own YouTube channel with the Chubby Meeple. That's where the Chubby Meeple came from because, Dice Tower at that time wasn't doing Kickstarter previews. It was all published games only was the only thing they worked with. And so wanting to still continue to do the Kickstarter previews and help out, those folks who were chasing their dreams on Kickstarter, I kept my Kickstarter preview videos over on my Chubby Meeple page, and then started, even though if you look back at Chubby Meeple and some of the older videos that are there are some videos there of actual published games that weren't Kickstarted, or at least at the time I reviewed them, they had been published. They may have been Kickstarted. I know there's a video on there for One Deck Dungeon, which was originally a Kickstarter, but by the time I did a review, it was the published version of the game and not a prototype, and they weren't seeking funding and all that. But from that point, once I was with the Dice Tower, all of the published games that I did reviews for, I just submitted over there. So published reviews went to the Dice Tower for their channel, and I kept my channel strictly for the most part Kickstarter previews. I did an Origins recap back in 2017, kind of a daily recap of what I was doing each day at Origins. I was there on a press badge and getting to talk to people and interview people and going to different events and things. So did kind of an Origins recap there, and then that's where at Origins last year in 2017 was where I met up with Travis Chance that started Colossal. He had actually announced Colossal at Origins last year. I sat down and played some prototypes of him, with him. I actually played a very, very rough prototype of Kami-sama at that point, which was definitely a different game than what people saw back on Kickstarter back this past February. And by August of 2017, I was working with Colossal, helping them out with social media and Kickstarter and kind of the community management side of things. So, you're talking from Gen Con of 2016 to Origins of 2017, not even a year, I, was in the industry doing things. And now I've kind of returned back to the Chubby Meeple page doing Kickstarter previews and getting back on that horse. I've kind of missed the content creation side of things. So getting back into that and have some discussions on the back end here, that would allow me to do so. Being able to dive back into doing Kickstarter previews for, again, those publishers who are chasing dreams and trying to design games and get those out to the public, as well as still doing Dice Tower reviews for, for those folks. I've got a couple reviews that are kind of in the pipeline here, and I actually just got notification today that the next kind of round of games, that every now and then Tom will send a list of like a spreadsheet of games that they've received that they don't have the time to get to, and he says, here, put your name next to stuff you want, and you just have to review it once we send it to you. So I got a shipping notification today that a box of games, it's like 2 or 3 games, is on its way from Florida to my house. So it'll probably show up right before the 4th of July holiday. So I'll have some other games to dive into and review, and some of it's newer, some of it's older stuff, but it's always fun to have those kinds of things and be able to throw a game on the table, play it a little bit with people, and then throw it in front of a camera and shoot a quick 10-15 minute review. Really enjoy that aspect of it, and looking forward to continuing to do that here throughout 2018.
Well, there you go. That's awesome to be able to do the regular reviews with the Dice Tower and then the Kickstarter ones with the Chubby Meeple. So that's awesome. Now, Mark, per se, somebody's fallen asleep. It wouldn't be because of you or your channel and what you do over there. It'd be because of me and my podcast. At the time of this recording, we're at the very tail end of June, and this morning we just released our 100th episode of the year. So people get a little tired of hearing me drone on, and sometimes they fall asleep, but now they're suddenly jolted awake at the wheel or whatnot. Why should they go ahead and check out the Chubby Meeple, your YouTube channel, especially with all the other great content creators there are over there on the YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, I think my big draw is I try to be with my Kickstarter previews. I try to do a little combination of how to play the game, kind of a brief overview of the gameplay, as well as my thoughts. So you have some content creators that will do the same thing. They'll give you an overview. Some of them may ramble on and dive into when they dive into the gameplay, and they take a game that, the gameplay itself is, a 20-minute game, but their preview video ends up being 40 minutes long. So so I try to keep things as concise as I possibly can and still get all of the information in there. I'm pretty I do a kind of a bullet point script. It's not really scripted out. It's little bullet points of things I want to make sure I cover when I'm giving my kind of quote unquote final thoughts on Kickstarter previews. But I tend to churn out a lot of content, fairly frequently. It's not overwhelming. I use the Dice Towers example. They put out brand new videos every single day, and you don't get that with my channel. I probably put out 2 to 3 videos a week, maybe 2 to 3 over a 2-week period. Just kind of depending on what's going on Kickstarter and what's going on. I'll probably be doing some things with. We have a game day coming up tomorrow that I'm kind of co-hosting, so I'll be doing some things from there as far as not necessarily interviews or anything like that, but I may do some like Facebook live streams or something like that end up over on YouTube as well, just so people can kind of see the game day and kind of the fun that's having. But definitely, I'd recommend checking it out. It's a fairly small channel. I think I'm just under 200 subscribers at this point, so not a very large following, but those that do follow, they definitely are responsive, and it's kind of the same. I feel like I've got a little bit of a different audience. There's not a lot of overlap between my viewers and viewers of the other, the other Kickstarter reviewers, the big names out there. I feel like my audience is a little bit different, so it kind of give you those Kickstarter folks that are out there, it gives them a little bit different of an audience to appeal to, whereas you may see a lot of crossover between some of the bigger names that you see on most of the Kickstarters that are hitting these days.
Oh, okay, and per se, somebody does have their game, it's ready, it's all ready and whatnot, and ready to go to Kickstarter and whatnot, and they want to see about getting the Chubby Meeple to review or preview their game, I guess in this case. How would they go about doing that, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm at the Chubby Meeple at all 3 of those, so I'm easy to find. And then they can shoot me email, chubbymeeple@gmail.com. We'll get them to me, and we take a look. We can take a look at the game, and just depending on how involved it is, if it's something my game group's not going to play, I'm really open about that. There there have been times where people are like, hey, I've got this really cool game, and the game may look really cool, but I just know in the time frame they're wanting it, it's going to take me too long to get a game group together to play it. Or it may be something that I'm interested in that I just know my game group's not going to like at all. So I'm really upfront and honest. If I don't think it's something that I'll be able to play and review within their timeline, I let them know that ahead of time. I'm not one to just say, oh yeah, I can do that, and then try to squeeze it in and end up missing deadlines and all that. Because I know just from the experience of being on the back end of Kickstarter and running those campaigns, that it's important that you have those things up front. And especially with a preview video, if you send a prototype and someone puts a video together and they get your rules wrong, or they explain something differently, or they switch up how the game is played, and they can be really confusing for those people that are trying to figure the game out and trying to figure out if it's worth throwing their dollars at. So I make sure and get the game played multiple times before I review it as well. So, but yeah, hit me up on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the Chubby Meeple, or shoot me an email, chubbymeeple@gmail.com.
Awesome. And is there a certain, I know you said your game group has to play it or whatnot. Is there certain kind of games you look for in particular?
I really enjoy it. It's really easy for me to get 2-player games to the table. Although I try not to do exclusively 2-player game Kickstarter previews. If it's a game that's got if you're looking at a player count on a game and it's a 4-player minimum, if it's like a social deduction game that plays 4 to 8 or 4 to 10 people, those tend to be a little more difficult for me to get to the table, because a lot of times my game groups can't. We don't get together all on the same time, or not available. So it's we end up having, even though I've got a group of 6 or 8 people that get together and play games, sometimes there's only 3 or 4 of us getting together. And especially with those games, I always use the social deduction games as an example, where they have that player count of 4 to 10. Generally those games play very differently at those player counts. And I can use a Kickstarter preview I just did as an example. Recently did a Kickstarter preview for Gorus Maximus from Inside Up Games. It's on Kickstarter right now. And that game plays, when I originally did the video, it was from 2 to 8 players. Now they've added a solo mode to it, so it plays 1 to 8 players. And I've played it all player counts, and the game very much plays differently, and to the point where when you get up in the higher player counts, you really want to break off and play it in a team format, because the game can run really long if you're playing 6, 7, 8 players and you're not doing it as a team, just because of the way the end game conditions and everything are. Fantastic game at all player counts, but it feels very different. And so I make sure, if something has a wide range of players, I make sure and play it at all of those player counts, so that I can get a feel for what the game feels like at those accounts. As far as themes and things like that, there aren't any themes that really turn me off, or that I say no to. I generally do try to keep the channel family friendly. So if someone's got a game that's like, the Cards Against Humanity style humor, I generally won't review it on my channel, because I know that some of the subscribers I have are actually children, and maybe young teenagers. So I try to keep the channel family friendly in that regard. So, but other than that, as long as it's not crass, insulting humor, I'm open to pretty much anything. I'm a gamer. I'm not locked into just Euros or just the Amerithrash stuff. I consider myself an omni gamer, if you will.
Okay, awesome. And so we'll make sure we leave links in the show notes, so if anybody's looking at a Kickstarter, they can go ahead and find you and hopefully see if it's a good fit for their game, so they can get the Chubby Meeple to review it or whatnot.
Yeah, and they can, if they take a look at my Facebook page, I always link my YouTube videos there. You can, of course, jump over to YouTube, youtube.com/thechubbymeeple, and I'm on there. You can, of course, just search the Chubby Meeple. You'll pull up my page that way as well, if you want to get a feel for the kind of videos I do, and that kind of see if that's a good fit for the page. And definitely, by all means, if there are folks out there that are needing previews done for upcoming Kickstarters, definitely I encourage them to reach out. I'm more than happy to take a look at the game, and if they want feedback as well, in addition to the preview video, I'm happy to provide feedback. I've got some experience in doing some a little bit of play testing and providing kind of player notes, if you will, for blind play testing and such, so I can help out with that. And I've got a little bit of thing. I mean, I've kind of had my fingers in a lot of things. I've done some rule book editing. I've done a little bit of translation, kind of quasi translation for a Kickstarter campaign from an Italian publisher, that they did the Italian to English translation and then sent me the English language so that I could clean it up and actually make it read like English. So I've even done those kinds of things and give feedback on card layouts and whatnot. So it's more than just the video. I'm happy to provide other services, and I've got the experience of of being on the back end and running Kickstarter. So if there's a small publisher out there that is getting ready to run their first or their second Kickstarter, maybe they ran their first Kickstarter and realized that keeping up with the messages and the comments is crazy, and is pretty much a 24/7 job when you've got a campaign going. I'm happy to help out as collaborators on those campaigns as well, and even help keep up with the comments and the messages and stuff on the back end of the Kickstarter campaign, because I've got plenty of experience doing that as well.
Awesome, and they can go ahead and get in touch with you. Do you charge for your reviews or your previews or any of those services?
I do. I do charge for the video previews. The pricing generally it ranges based on the complexity of the game. The lighter games I can I usually will do a preview video for around $100 for the video, and that includes not only the video itself but promotion across all of my social media. I make sure and post the game to if your game is on Board Game Geek, I make sure my video goes on the game's page on Board Game Geek, and continually promote and sending links out to my video and to the Kickstarter campaign, throughout the campaign. It's not just here's my video and then we cut ties and don't ever talk. I try to help out with the campaign as it's going on, even just from a promotion standpoint. If the game's a little bit more involved, it's going to take me longer to shoot. It's going to be a longer video. It's going to take longer for me to get people together to play it. Generally, we're talking that $150 to $200 range. But I would say generally that $100 to $200 for video review is probably a good range for people that are looking. That's about where most of the stuff falls in there. In fact, I don't think I've done anything that was more than a $200 fee at this point. So that's generally, and it's kind of an all-inclusive package. As far as the Kickstarter consultation, Kickstarter collaboration on the back end, I've not charged for any of that yet, because mainly at this point I haven't done any of it. Most of the stuff that I've done on the back end was all while I was doing stuff with Colossal and kind of helping them launch their first few Kickstarter campaigns. I was there as an actual employee, so it's just kind of part of the job. But now that I'm kind of doing my own thing and kind of off to the side, helping out contracts with different folks, those fees are certainly negotiable. And if they don't think, if I'm not going to be there the whole campaign, if it's say it's a 15-day campaign and they only need me for 6 or 7 of those days, obviously the rate's going to adjust based on that as well. But yeah, definitely reach out, get some information. I've got plenty of links and things I can send as far as a portfolio and some of my past work if people want to see that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have for me.
Awesome, and we'll make sure we leave links and everything. So, and I know you were on the podcast a while back ago, but the next portion of our podcast, in case you don't remember, is Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for your cell phone, your computer, your video games, or a tablet, or anything like that. And it doesn't even necessarily have to do with tabletop board gaming. Is there an app you use a lot of that we can talk about for a moment, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. There are actually a couple of them that come to mind. I have multiple people that I constantly have games of Star Realms going on, and I love the Star Realms app. It's such a unique, kind of a really well thought out app. Really captures the feel of the card game. I've always got games going on with people on Star Realms. I'm on there if people are listening to this and want to challenge me in Star Realms. It's just Chubby Meeple. You can add me on Star Realms and challenge me to a game. I usually have games going all the time. I think I've probably got 4 different games going right now. And that happens a lot. I have kind of jokingly my nightly ritual when I lay down at bed before I actually put my phone down and go to sleep. I always pull up the Patchwork app and lose to the medium or hard AI generally. So I'll play a little quick local game of Patchwork against the AI, and it's kind of helps me unwind at the end of the day. And then what I've really been kind of addicted to lately, someone shared, and this isn't even an app, someone shared a link to a solo version of the Ganz Schon Clever, the roll and write game that came out of Germany that hopefully is going to be coming to the States later. I've been playing a lot of that. It's literally just it's a solo version, so it's kind of try to beat your high score every time you're playing it. But I play that a lot. It's a quick thing. In fact, it's saved in one of my tabs on my mobile Chrome app on my phone. I go to that tab and I refresh the page, and I'm ready to start a new game. And I start rolling dice and checking things off, and it's all touch screen, so I can play. I play it all the time. So that's probably getting most of my attention now from an app standpoint. And then I would recommend anyone who hasn't played it, the Seven Wonders app that finally came out is fantastic. It's a really great implementation of Seven Wonders. And so back to the card drafting and passing the good cards to my opponent. And I would say the last probably dozen times I've played, I get beat by the AI. Great game. I would highly recommend. So those are my recommendations for apps. I would say Patchwork, Star Realms, Seven Wonders, and then for those who don't want an app but want to pull up their mobile browser and play something that will kill a lot of time and a lot of productivity, the Gone Shown Clever app is or Glad Show Clever website is fantastic. There are links to that on if you pull up that game on Board Game Geek. There are links to that in the forums. That's where I found it. So. Killing my productivity, but my high score keeps going up. I think I hit 276 the other day. So.
Oh, well, yeah, that's how it is with me. And the Tetris app, you recently found it, and I think I got 300 plus, almost 400,000 on Tetris today or yesterday.
Wow, that's a heck of a score.
Yeah, but it kills my productivity, like you talked of. But yeah, so that's awesome. So let's see here. So and we recently got Seven Wonders Duel to the table. I don't know how we haven't played Seven Wonders. How is that different, Seven Wonders compared to Seven Wonders Duel?
Seven Wonders. Even though the Seven Wonders, but the reason Seven Wonders Duel was put out is because one of the big complaints that folks had with Seven Wonders is the box said that it played from 2 to 7 players, but no one really enjoyed it at 2 players. So it's kind of a 3 to 7 player style. So they came back and they tweaked the gameplay for Seven Wonders Duel. So you're not necessarily drafting cards from a hand of cards. You have a formation of the cards spread out on the table, some of those hidden and some of them not. And as you uncover cards, then cards get revealed. So you're drafting from the cards that are splayed out on the table as opposed to passing cards back and forth to one another. And drafting's a tricky thing to get with 2 players because, hey, I've got this card. Okay, that's great. There are 3 cards here I want. I know at least one of these is coming back to me. Whereas if you're playing Seven Wonders where it plays up to 7 people, I have a hand of 7 cards or 8 cards, 9 cards. There's a good chance that the card I just passed is not going to make it back around to me, in the time that these cards go through. So it's a little tricky to play, just straight Seven Wonders with 2 players because a lot of the cards that you want, you're going to have access to just from the nature of only one other person is taking cards from that hand that you saw. Seven Wonders Duel is fantastic. I actually, as much as I like Seven Wonders, I probably like Seven Wonders Duel more. It's easier for me to get to the table again because it's that 2-player count. And then if you want to kick it up a notch, once you've played enough Seven Wonders Duel, definitely grab the Pantheon expansion because it adds gods that all have special abilities and things to the game, and really enjoy playing with the Pantheon expansion as well. And they do the same thing as Seven Wonders Duel and Seven Wonders. They both have the military track and a science track and just a straight points track that you can chase. So there's multiple paths to victory as well. So they're both great games, but if I had to pick one, I would say Seven Wonders Duel is better because it's easier for me to get to the table.
Oh, okay, awesome, so cool. So with those apps and that also that web browser that you play that kills your productivity, if you had to pick one of them, what would be one thing you would do to fix or make one of those apps or that web browser game better?
I would take the web browser thing, and I would love to see that as an actual app. Because sometimes the website, sometimes I'll get messages about, I'm not connected to a secure network, which, there's nothing on the site that asks for any personal information. It's literally just a little flash website. But I would like to see that implemented as an app, and it would be great to actually, somehow set that up so you could play it against multiple players, even if they were just multiple computer players, because I've played the physical copy of the game, and when you're rolling those dice and you're selecting dice, other people are also selecting dice. And you don't really get that feel when you're playing it solo in the web browser. So it'd be great if they were to turn that into an app and make it multiplayer, whether it was pass and play with people, or you're playing asynchronous somehow. Probably couldn't play it asynchronous. It'd probably have to all be real-time games. But I would absolutely love to see an app implementation of that because it is a fantastic game. And I think a lot of the roll and writes roll and writes becoming a huge thing these days. And I think there are a lot of roll and writes, lend themselves very well to becoming apps.
Awesome. So that's cool. And what was the name of that game again, Mark?
It's called Ganz Schon Clever. It's a German title. I think the English translation is just very clever, but it's GANZSCHON and then the word clever. It's all over board. If you go to Board Game Geek, you'll see it in the hotness. It's in the top like 10 games on the hotness still. It's a super fun game. It's literally just it's kind of souped up Yahtzee in a way. You're rolling dice. You're taking one of those dice, and based on the color of the dice you take, the color of that die that you take, it scores in different ways. Some of them you're crossing off you're crossing off blocks, and then when you cross out a whole column or a whole row, you get bonuses that let you combo into other colors and either cross things off or write numbers in. And it's such an interesting way. And then all those things score together at the end of the game. And there are little bonuses. There's little fox symbols on the thing. And if you score, you get 2 or 3 of those foxes, then you look at your lowest color that you scored, and whatever your lowest number is, then you multiply that time the number of foxes, and you get that many bonus points. So it just changes a bunch of different ways you can combo things. And there's rules to, if you drafted, like if I roll a die and I get 2 1s and 2 2s and a 4 and a 5, and I take the 4, the 2 1s and the 2 2s go away, and they're not available to me anymore because I took a high number. So I may really want that high number, but I'm throwing 4 dice away to take it. So there's a lot of interesting choices to be made there, and I would definitely I don't believe it's in the States yet, and I haven't heard that it's coming to the States. It's something that the physical copies that I've seen, folks have ordered them through Amazon.de and brought them over, had them shipped over from Germany, much like everyone was doing with the Mind before Pandasaurus put it out. But I had that one, that the physical copy there. I really would love to see it come to the States because it's a super fun game. I've really enjoyed that, and I was glad I got to play it when I did because I'd heard about it and never had a chance to see it. But when I finally started chucking those dice and crossing things off, I love rolling rights anyway, and this is just one that just really kicked it up a notch.
Okay, awesome. And we try to make a green podcast around here. So if any of the creators or anybody has anything to do with the development of Gans Sean Clever is ever listening, you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. What Mark would do to make that better, he would actually make an actual application that people can go ahead and play other people or whatnot on there. So you heard it here first, and so that's awesome. Now, we don't want to keep you all night, Mark. We know you got a all-day gaming event tomorrow, but we want to appreciate you for coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, and you already told us how we can go about finding you so they don't have to go ahead and come to your hometown to stalk you.
Absolutely. Hey, they're welcome to come if they want to sit down and game. I'm happy to sit down and game with literally anyone, and I don't even care what kind of game it is. I will play it.
Well, there you go. You got an invitation from Mark, who is a Chubby Meeple. And once again, thank you so much for coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We really appreciate it, Mark.
Thanks a lot. It's my pleasure to be here again.
No problem.
Quite a blast from my past, if I can say so myself. Getting Geeky with Game Relief has come a long ways from then. In fact, so far that we want to get it even better, and that's why we need your help. We're currently on Kickstarter, and we're asking for you to help us get to some of these stretch goals to make Getting Geeky with Game Relief even better. Things such as mobile equipment. You heard some of my first episodes. Well, this way we can bring you more episodes mobilely, as when Lady Leaf's having a down day, I don't have to be in my office to record, and those episodes won't sound like my initial episodes did. If you want to find out about those, you can go back and listen. I wouldn't recommend it because we've come so far, but this way you'll be able to get more episodes. Plus, I'm really looking forward to the stretch goal that was created from one of our fans, entitled Yoga Instruction. It'll be yoga with a board game. Quite an experience. I hope you'll come and join along the ride. Plus, do you want to help us create some stretch goals? I'd love your help. Go ahead and check us out on Kickstarter, or send me an email at gamerelief@gamereliefgo.com, or through Facebook at Getting Geeky with Game Relief. I would love to see what you would like to have Getting Geeky with Game Relief do for you on our stretch goals. Plus, we want to get some video equipment so we can make some cool videos of board games we play and show you how to play and have fun on your tabletop. So definitely go ahead and check out our campaign. We'll be on Kickstarter for a while, but the sooner you're back, the quicker we can get to those stretch goals and create more from you, the fans. Plus, we'll be able to unlock some really cool things. They've got some great ideas, and I know you do too. So jump on over and check out Getting Geeky with Game Relief podcast season number 3, currently on a Kickstarter near you. And like usual, we'll catch you guys on the flip side. So go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geek fold. And you can do that by showing them our Kickstarter. Because as we talk about it, we talk about how I got into gaming and what we hope to do to help others get into gaming through this podcast. But anyways, I'll stop tooting my own horn and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.